Everyone in Dallas knows the legends about White Rock Lake, ghost sightings, strange lights, but nothing prepared Marcus for what he saw. He was a delivery driver, cutting through the lake roads just after 1 in the morning. That's when his truck headlights flickered, then died completely. He stepped out into the humid night air. Pale, bluish orbs were floating just above the water's surface. He raised his phone to record, but the screen just showed static. A whisper seemed to come from everywhere at once. The orbs drifted closer, and inside them, faces. Dozens of them, mouths open in a silent scream. He ran for his truck, but the doors were locked from the inside. Then he saw her on the opposite shore, a woman in a soaked white dress, walking slowly toward him. She lifted her head, and her eyes glowed with the same pale blue light. "Come back," she whispered, without moving her lips. Marcus sprinted into the trees, not daring to look back. He finally reached the main road where a car stopped to help. The driver frowned. "You okay? You shouldn't be near the lake after what happened to all those people who drowned back in '96. From the edge of the trees, glowing pale blue, the woman stood watching him, and this time she was smiling. Marcus hadn't slept for 2 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the woman from the lake, dripping water, eyes glowing an unnatural blue. He told himself it was trauma, a hallucination, but the wet, muddy footprints on his bedroom floor weren't a hallucination. They led from his window right to the foot of his bed. He lived alone. The police dismissed his story, saying they get strange calls about that lake all the time. But on the drive home, he saw them in his rearview mirror, wet handprints, smeared on the inside of the back window. That's when his phone buzzed, an unknown number. The text read, "You left before we finished." He sped home, but the apartment felt wrong, too cold. The door slammed shut and locked on its own. He heard wet, dragging footsteps coming down the hall. Marcus ran. He fled his apartment, but a message was waiting, drawn in condensation on his truck's windshield. "Come back to the water." Marcus didn't turn around. Whatever was behind him in the gas station, breathing, dripping, wasn't human. He kept his eyes fixed on the bright cashier counter ahead and forced his legs to move. The moment he stepped inside, the dripping stopped. The cashier, an older man, looked up. "You all right, son? You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus swallowed. "Something followed me here." The cashier's expression fell. "From the lake?" he asked quietly. Marcus froze. "Yes." The man motioned him closer. "You need to leave. Now. They don't like bright places, but they don't stop hunting." "They?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. The cashier leaned in. "They're the ones who didn't die, right?" They stepped outside. The air was still. The man lit a cigarette. "The lake, it keeps what it wants. Some bodies float up, others just wander." A deep splash echoed from behind the pumps. A puddle of dark lake water was forming, expanding. From the shadows, a figure rose, dripping, its head tilted at an impossible angle. A voice, layered with drowned whispers, drifted through the night. "Marcus, it's time to come back." The lake water spread across the gas station pavement with unnatural speed, rippling around Marcus's feet. He jumped back as the cashier grabbed his arm. "Move! They're trying to open a path!" Marcus didn't understand, but he ran. Behind him, the drowned woman stepped fully into the station lights, every droplet from her dress hitting the ground like distant ocean waves. "Marcus, you're already one of us." Her voice was everywhere. An old man shoved him toward an alley. "This way!" They sprinted, but halfway over a fence, a cold, wet hand clamped around Marcus's ankle. He kicked free and scrambled over. The old man hauled him up. "The lake will chase you. You have to send her back." He shoved a tarnished silver necklace into Marcus's hand. As Marcus touched it, visions flooded his mind. Her struggle, her scream swallowed by water. He staggered back, freezing as he saw the old man's shoes. They were dripping wet. The man whispered, "I tried to outrun it too." Then his voice turned into a watery gurgle. "She's waiting at the pier." He didn't remember getting back in the car. He only remembered driving, the city blurring past him as the lake called him back. By the time he reached the West Pier, the air was heavy and silent, and standing at the end of it, a silhouette. The drowned woman. He clutched the necklace, the old man's words echoing in his head. "Take it to the West Pier." He stepped onto the old wood. Halfway down, the lake began to move. Not with waves, but with hands. Pale arms rose from the dark water, their glowing eyes floating just below the surface. The woman turned. Her voice drifted across the pier. "You brought it back." He held the necklace tighter. "Why me?" She stepped closer, weightless. "You saw me rise, so now you must join us." He looked at his reflection. His eyes were glowing pale blue, just like hers. "You didn't escape," she whispered. "You were chosen." The pier shuddered like something alive, waves slamming into the posts even though the air was dead calm. The drowned woman stood inches away, her soaked dress whipping around her. "Choose, Marcus," she said, her voice trembling with fear. He clutched the necklace. "What happens if I break it?" Her eyes darted to the dark lake. "If you sever my anchor, I return to the bottom, alone." "And me?" Marcus demanded. "You're marked," she said. "The lake won't forgive that, but you might escape." "Might." Suddenly, the boards behind him collapsed. Pale hands lunged from the water, grabbing his ankle. He screamed, trying to pull free as they dragged him toward the edge. "Break the chain!" the woman shouted. As Marcus raised the necklace, a soft voice whispered directly in his ear. "Marcus, don't leave me again." He froze. He knew that voice, his sister, the one who drowned years ago. Her face surfaced in the water, a child's face just as he remembered. "Help me," she pleaded. His grip loosened. "That isn't your sister," the drowned woman screamed. "She's mine," the lake growled back, and something ancient began to rise from the deep. The lake erupted. A black column of water shot up, swallowing the pier in a roaring vortex. Marcus clung to a splintered beam as something massive moved within the column. The drowned woman screamed, "Do not look at it directly!" But he did. He saw a single, gigantic eye flicker open. Its gaze found him, and a voice without sound echoed in his mind. "Return." The water bent toward him like a striking serpent. Dozens of pale arms erupted from the vortex, dragging the drowned woman back toward its swirling maw. "Break the chain!" she screamed. Marcus lunged for the necklace just as the pale, rotten hand of his sister burst from the water and caught it. "Brother," she whispered, "come with me." Marcus snatched the necklace back. As hands burst from the lake, grabbing his ankles and pulling him down, his sister's voice whispered, "If you break it, I disappear forever." He froze, clutching the necklace as the monster surged upward. The lake erupted. A black column of water shot up, swallowing the pier in a towering vortex. I clung to a splintered beam as the surge lifted me, my ears ringing with a roar like every drowned soul screaming at once. Something massive moved within the column, something aware. "Marcus, do not look at it!" a voice cried. But I did. Through the spinning wall of water, I saw a shifting, twisting shape. An enormous eye flickered open, pale blue, just like the drowned one's. Its gaze found me, and my heartbeat slowed to match the waves. The one beneath spoke without sound. Return. Pale arms erupted from the vortex, dragging a woman in. "Break the chain!" she screamed. The necklace in my hand glowed. As I raised it, a shockwave threw me back. The necklace clattered away, only to be caught by the rotten hand of my drowned sister. "Brother," she whispered, "come with me." Marcus tore his hand away from the invisible grip, stumbling backward until he hit a tree. His breath came in sharp, broken gasps. "Show yourself!" he shouted into the empty shoreline. The lake didn't move. The shadows didn't move. But something did. A soft splash rippled near the water's edge, as if a child stepped forward. Then another, and another, each splash closer than the last. Marcus raised his trembling flashlight, sweeping the beam across the water. Nothing. Then, his own shadow twitched. It turned its head toward him, while Marcus himself stood frozen. The shadow lifted a small, child-sized hand and pointed. Behind him, a whisper. "Take me back." The flashlight died. Darkness. He bolted, feet pounding the trail. Giggling followed him, the sound of a child running after him, too fast. He reached his car, slammed the door, and locked it. Relief flooded him as the engine roared to life. But then he saw it. In the rearview mirror, water droplets slid down the back seat, forming the outline of a small body. A child's voice whispered, "You opened the door." Then another voice, deeper, layered with drowned throats, answered, "A returner." Marcus couldn't breathe. The returner's dripping silhouette loomed over him in the dead car, its many hands gripping every escape route. Its voice scraped the inside of his skull. "Take us to her." Marcus shook his head. "I don't know who you're talking about." The returner leaned closer, water spilling from its smooth face. Another chain was broken. "Mine was the only one. I destroyed the necklace." The creature's mouth widened, splitting its face. "We are not speaking of jewelry." The temperature plunged. Frost crawled across the windshield. The returner whispered, "She broke herself." Marcus's stomach twisted. "Who?" The creature tilted its head, vertebrae cracking. "The one who drowned first." Marcus froze. The truth crept up his spine like ice. His sister. "No, she died years ago. She drowned before." The returner hummed. "Her death was the first crack. You were supposed to drown with her. She made a trade." Marcus's eyes stung. She saved me?" It nodded. "And now," it hissed, "her chain is breaking. She returns." Cold fingers clamped around Marcus's ankles, dragging him down. He scraped at the console, kicking wildly. "Let me go!" The featureless creature tilted its head. "The lake has claimed its half," it whispered. "The other half waits." Outside, his sister stood, water dripping down her small frame. But her reflection in the glass was wrong, a tall shape with long limbs and a hollow face. She wasn't standing. She was hanging, feet off the ground. "What are you doing to her?" Marcus croaked. The creature leaned close. "She is separating. The child who died is peeling away from what the lake has made of her." "And what has it made?" The creature's mouth opened like a wound. "A gate." Behind his sister, the lake surged upward. Her small voice whispered, "Marcus, they want me back." The creature's grip tightened. "You must choose which door closes. One returns, one is taken, one becomes the keeper." Marcus screamed her name. The cold rose over Marcus's shoulders, the lake swallowing his screams. A creature, the returner, hovered inches from his face, waiting. Outside, his sister flickered between the child he knew and a twisted silhouette. Two versions, one choice. "I choose her," he choked out. "The real her." The returner straightened. "Your choice is made." The water froze around him, a glass cocoon. The creature reached through, touching his chest. "The keeper," it whispered, "must bear the weight of the one they save." Cracks spread across the ice, then across his skin. His sister solidified on the shore, becoming whole, alive. Relief flooded him until the returner finished. "Then you will take her place." The ice shattered. The lake yanked him backward, dragging him into the mud as roots twisted around his limbs. He was pulled under, the darkness absolute. A voice echoed, "The keeper does not die." He was now part of the lake, a prisoner, a guardian, forever watching. The world above shimmered like a distant dream. Marcus floated deep beneath the lake, not swimming, not drowning, but suspended. Roots curled around his limbs. He could feel everything the lake felt, every ripple, every boat drifting overhead, every body resting in the mud. He wasn't dead. He wasn't alive. He was awake. Above, he heard his sister's frantic footsteps. "Marcus!" she called, her voice trembling. "Please, come back!" He tried to reach for her, but the roots tightened. A voice whispered, low and ancient, "You chose! Now you serve!" He recognized it, the returner. But it wasn't above the lake now. It was inside it, inside him. On the shore, his sister fell to her knees, sobbing. "I can feel you. I know you're still here." She was right. He reached for her with all his will, and the lake responded. A silhouette of him, wet and trembling, formed beside her. She gasped, "Marcus?" He reached, and the roots yanked him back into the dark. She screamed, "Come back!" Then something else moved in the abyss. Something massive, vaster, older, the one beneath. It whispered, its voice so large he felt it in his bones. A door has opened. He finally understood. The keeper wasn't meant to guard the lake. He was meant to guard the thing inside it. On the shore, his sister's voice grew cold. "I'm getting you out, and I'll burn this lake to the ground if I have to."
My sister stood at the edge of the lake, her eyes reflecting its black surface. But the lake reflected her to her grief, her fury. From beneath the water, I felt it, a trembling echo inside my new, submerged mind. She wasn't just mourning me. She was calling me. The lake didn't like that. A cold ripple touched her ankle, a warning. But she stepped closer. "Marcus," she whispered, "I'm not leaving you here." The water began to pull back, exposing mud and broken branches, as if the lake itself were taking a deep breath. I screamed without a voice run, but she took another step forward. The lake snapped, a hand made of water grasping for her. She stumbled but didn't fall. From her jacket, she pulled a necklace, my mother's matching one. The water went still. A creature of reeds and shadow emerged, whispering with 100 voices. The chain should not exist. But she held it high and stepped into the water, walking. The lake didn't pull her. It rose to meet her. And every ripple whispered one word, "Keeper."
The white flame burned along the necklace, dripping sparks into the lake that hissed and turned to steam. Roots tightened around me, pulling me deeper into the mud. "She's coming, my sister." Her voice cut through the water like a warm current. "Marcus, I'm coming." I tried to reach out, but the roots fused me to the lake bed. Beneath me, an ancient voice thundered, "She is not the one we chose." My sister froze. A cold smile touched her lips. Good. The white flame roared, and the entire lake ignited with blinding light. The creature beneath me howled, "The door! She is opening the door! Stop her!" She didn't slow. Stepping deeper, she swung the burning necklace. "I'm not here to become part of you," she whispered. "I'm here to break you." A wall of water rose like a claw, but she drove the necklace straight into it. The lake exploded. The roots holding me snapped, pulling me toward the surface. Through the chaos, my voice finally broke free. "Run!" But she didn't. The necklace split open in her hands like a dying star. The necklace burst in her hands, not like an explosion, more like a flower of light opening all at once. White fire spiraled out, twisting into strands that wrapped around her arms, her chest, her throat, until she glowed like a human lantern in the dark lake. I felt the second chain snapping inside me, each break sending a violent tremor through the water. The one beneath thundered from the mud. "Stop her!" The lake churned violently. A creature lunged, its limbs jerking like they were yanked by invisible strings. My sister didn't flinch. She raised her glowing hands and stepped deeper. "Let him go," she whispered. The creature shrieked, "The keeper must stay!" It leaped, but the light pulsed, and the thing convulsed, folding inward like burning paper before collapsing into the water. The final link inside me shattered. Freedom surged through me, just as a massive skeletal hand burst from the lake bed and reached for her. I screamed, but it was too late. The hand closed around her, and the white light detonated. The blast wasn't loud. It was silent, as if all the sound in the world had been scooped out at once. White light erupted from her chest, shooting through the skeletal fingers closing around her. The bones flashed white, splitting with cracks like breaking ice. Then came the sound, a deep, ripping thunder that shook the underside of the lake. I was thrown backward, spinning, until I slammed into a wall of mud and roots. When the light faded, the massive bones had turned hollow and ashy. But she was still standing, the glow around her body flickering like dying embers. She looked up, and I followed her gaze. The one beneath was rising, a jaw of silt-packed bone, ribs like sunken arches, and hollow eyes filled with emptiness. It spoke without a mouth. "The chain is broken. The keeper is unbound." The water froze solid around me, not ice, just fixed. It wasn't going to drown me. It was going to replace me. My sister slammed her fists against a water wall separating us, screaming, "Let him go!" The creature turned to her. "When one chain breaks, the other must take its place." A cold root slid around my ankle. I choked out a single word. "Run!" But she didn't. She stepped forward and let the lake pull her under. As she stepped forward, the lake seized her. Not like water swallowing a victim, but like a mouth closing around something it had been waiting for. She vanished beneath the surface with no splash, no ripple. Just gone. I screamed, but the sound never left my throat. The water binding my body tightened, freezing me in place. The one beneath, the skeletal horror in the water, hesitated. A tremor of confusion, of fear, ran through it. Then something moved under the water. A pressure, a rising presence. The lake trembled. "She cannot enter," the creature boomed. "She is not chosen." But the lake disagreed. A faint white glow flickered in the deep, then another, like stars igniting. The light surged upward in a violent column, blasting through the creature's ribs. It roared. And through the blinding vortex, a silhouette appeared. Hers, eyes burning white. Her voice rose, deeper, echoing. Then maybe the below shouldn't have touched him. She rose from the lake slowly, unnaturally. Glowing chains wrapped around her shoulders, pulling her upward as if invisible hands were raising her from the deep. The light from her body turned the entire lake into a shimmering mirror. But the one beneath wasn't done. Its skeletal shape collapsed inward, and the lake floor heaved, the mud split. The real thing, the thing the lake had been hiding, was waking up. From the churning water, something enormous began to rise, a monolith made of darkness and depth, its surface etched with symbols that twisted and shifted as if alive. The one beneath revealed its true body, a tower of drowned stone and living shadow. It leaned forward, its voice resonating through the air and water. "You cannot unmake what was made to devour." She hovered, trembling, her light flickering. I shouted, "Move!" But she braced. A tendril as thick as a tree trunk slashed toward her and stopped, held by a burning sigil. "No," she said, her voice strained. The symbol exploded, shearing the tendril clean off. The monolith roared, "You are wrong!" She lifted her hand, but another symbol cracked, and her face twisted in pain. I realized the power was using her, damaging her with every strike. As she dropped lower, the monolith surged forward. She whispered a single word, "Break!" and the world split into white. Waking wasn't the right word. It was more like falling back into myself. One moment, there was a blinding flash, a scream. my sister's voice tearing reality open. The next, silence. I wasn't underwater anymore. I was somewhere between. A vast misty expanse stretched out, gray and shifting. And above me, upside down, was White Rock Lake, dripping like an image on wet glass. I wasn't in the lake. I was in the below. Then a faint tapping. Something approached through the fog, its bones clicking, limbs bending at unnatural angles. It was one of the returners. But here, it walked upright. It spoke, its voice smooth, almost gentle. "You shouldn't be here, Keeper." I backed away. "I'm not a keeper anymore." It chuckled, a sound like a dozen layered whispers. "Breaking a chain does not erase it." Then its hollow face looked past me. "She might hear you, if she remembers she has ears." The door didn't swing open. It inhaled. A deep, wet pull of air dragged the fog backward in long ribbons. I staggered, grabbing my sister before she drifted toward the opening. Her skin was colder than ice. The returner stood several yards away, unmoving. It stared at the door, terrified. It whispered, "Close it! Close it now, Keeper!" I shook my head. "I'm not a keeper, not anymore." My sister's hand lifted, the glowing chains on her wrists stretching toward the door. Her voice drifted out of the air. "It's calling to me." I grabbed her wrists. The chains sizzled. "No! You don't know what's inside?" She looked at me, her eyes flickering with something human. "Marcus, there are voices inside." I swallowed. "What are they saying?" She hesitated. "They're saying my name." Then a voice drifted from the door, a voice I knew, our mother's. "Come here, sweetheart." My sister's expression crumpled. "She sounds alive, Marcus." The ground trembled as the one beneath walked toward them, a giant stitched from stone, mud, and shadows. Its skull-like head dripped black water. Marcus's arms screamed with pain as his sister Marissa was pulled toward the door, her feet dragging through the fog. The door whispered with their mother's voice, gentle and warm, calling to her. "Sweetheart, I miss you." Marcus shouted, "Sis, don't listen! It's not Mom!" But Marissa sobbed, "I just want to see her." He held her tight, tears streaming. "She's gone! This thing is lying!" Then a new voice, slow and ancient, came not from the door, but from the giant. "The dead wait for you." It leaned close, its shadow swallowing them. "We know her name." And with a perfect copy of their mother's voice, it whispered, "Marissa." She froze, her resistance gone. The giant leaned in, its hollow eyes on her, and whispered, "Marissa, my baby, come home." She broke, lunging forward and ripping from his grasp. The door opened, and she was pulled inside. It slammed shut with a final echoing boom. The giant turned to Marcus. Where did she go?" he choked out. The creature leaned so close he could feel its hollow breath. "To the place we fear, the lake's true bottom." And behind them, the door began to beat like a heart. At first, Marissa thought she had died, just a blinding white glow. Then the light collapsed, and suddenly, she was falling. Cold air whipped past her as black water rushed up to meet her. She hit the surface but didn't sink. She passed right through it, as if she were a ghost, falling through layers of water that offered no resistance. Shapes drifted past her in the dark. A wedding ring, a rusted badge. Things the lake had swallowed long ago, now suspended around her like stars. Her descent slowed, and her feet touched solid ground. She stood in an impossible cavern beneath the lake, where the water hung above her like a ceiling of black mirrors. "Hello?" she called out. Her voice echoed back instantly, as if something stood just out of sight. A figure walked out of the darkness. It looked like her mother. "Mom?" she whispered. But as it stepped into the faint light, the illusion peeled away. In its place was something tall and thin, with skin as pale as clay and eyes too black and too large. It smiled and spoke in her mother's voice. "You wanted to see me, sweetheart." Marcus stood alone in the fog, staring at the door. It was no longer still. It rose and fell, slow and rhythmic, breathing like a living lung. He wiped tears from his face. "Marissa," he whispered her name. The creature behind him, the one beneath, spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "The way down is not yours." Marcus clenched his fists. "I don't care. I'm going." The giant knelt, its weight sinking into the trembling fog. It reached out one massive hand, something dangled from its fingers, a thin, flickering thread of light. "Her echo," the creature rumbled. As the light touched Marcus's skin, a shock of heat pulsed through him, and he heard her. A gasp, a heartbeat, a single word spoken from an impossible distance. "Marcus?" From the fog itself, another voice whispered, "Then you must die." Figures with drowned eyes and open jaws emerged, parting to reveal a dark, rippling pit. "To reach her," they hissed, "you must sink as we did." Marcus clutched the echo as his sister's voice flickered again. "Marcus, please," he whispered, broken. "I'll do it." As he stepped toward the pit, the giant leaned in. "Know this. What waits below the bottom is not your sister. It is there, but what will meet you wears her face." Marcus stared into the pit. "I don't care." And he jumped. Marcus hit the ground harder than he expected. He landed not with a splash, but with a skid across coarse, dark sand that tore his palms open. He wasn't underwater. Not really. Above him, a black sky rippled and shifted, as if miles of water hung just overhead, ready to fall. Cold fog swirled around his legs. In the gloom, he saw a sunken canoe, a rusted wheelchair, and dozens of single shoes. "Marissa!" he yelled, but the name was swallowed by the silence. He held up a golden thread, her echo, and it flickered, pulling him forward. The ground shifted beneath him, like sand that breathed. Suddenly, the sand behind him rose, forming a tall, thin creature with impossibly long arms. It whispered in his mother's voice, "You came." Its smile stretched too wide as it said, "You followed her grief. Now follow her steps." Marcus froze as more shapes rose from the sand, figures with smooth, drowned faces and empty sockets circling him. The creature leaned in. "They remember their deaths," it hissed, "and they want to share it." The tunnel wasn't a tunnel. The moment he hit the slope, Marcus realized it was a throat, muscular and pulsing. He slid down, scraping his arms on wet ridges as a low thrum filled the air. A heartbeat. Not his. The lake's. He landed in a vast underground chamber. Whispers slithered from the shadows, calling his name in his sister's voice. "Marissa! Where are you?" He yelled, wading through the soft, pulsing ground. Thin, shadowy figures peeled themselves from the walls, their heads turning to watch him pass. He followed the pull of a small, glowing echo he held, turning a corner. And froze. There she was. Marissa. Standing in a pool of glowing water. But her feet weren't touching the bottom. She floated just above the surface. "Marcus," she whispered, tears in her eyes, "something is holding me up." Beneath the water, long, thin shapes coiled around her ankles, lifting her higher. A deep, ancient voice vibrated through the chamber. "The sister is recognized," Marissa sobbed. "I'm sorry. I opened the door. I thought Mom might answer." The voice boomed again. "The claim is complete. We will take you instead." The water erupted, and something wearing Marissa's shape began to climb out. It looked at Marcus with empty eyes and smiled. The figure rose from the glowing pool with slow, deliberate grace. Water slid off it, revealing a shape that was almost my sister, Marissa. Almost. Same height, same posture. But its eyes were wrong. Too dark, too wide, too hungry. The real Marissa hung above, suspended by invisible glowing limbs. I pointed at the thing before me. "What are you?" It tilted its head, just like Marissa used to. When it spoke, its voice was hers. "I'm what you came for." It smiled her smile almost. The hollow gave me her outline, her warmth, her name. Above us, Marissa whimpered, "Marcus, don't let it touch you." The creature stepped closer. "You came to trade. One life for another." I shook my head. I said I'd die for her, not be replaced. Its smile widened impossibly. "Death is simple, but the bottom wants you. Your grief is deeper than hers." It offered me a choice. Take its hand and descend or leave alone. My heart thundered. I grabbed its wrist and shoved it into the pool. The creature shrieked as the lake swallowed us both. Marcus hit the water first, except it wasn't water. It felt like falling through thousands of cold, grasping fingers. He fought his way upward toward Marissa, who was sinking fast, unconscious, trailing a stream of glowing bubbles. He kicked down, ignoring his burning lungs, but the deeper he went, the darker it became. Something large moved in the dark beneath her. Hands brushed his legs, his arms, his throat. They were pale, some too long, some with broken nails. Children's hands. They weren't pulling him down. They were trying to hold on. He pushed through and grabbed Marissa just as her glow dimmed to nothing. He kicked upward, but the water thickened, the hands latching onto his ankles. A voice rippled through the water. "You cannot take what we keep." Just then, Marissa's eyes snapped open, a faint glow leaking from them. A shaft of light pierced the depths, pulling them violently upward. They burst through the surface, crashing onto the stone floor. She coughed, and her eyes flew open. They weren't brown anymore. They glowed softly. She whispered, "It's still down there, and it's coming up." The glowing pool behind Marcus trembled, ripples throbbing like a monstrous heartbeat. Marissa leaned against him, her eyes still glowing faintly from her time in the bottom. She whispered, "We don't have long." A towering arm of shadow burst from the water, smashing stone and reaching blindly. Marissa pointed to a glowing stone pillar. "The anchor. It ties the hollow to our world. If we break it, everything goes back." But she was the only one who could do it. Marcus refused, but she was resolute. "If I don't, that thing doesn't stop anywhere." Before he could stop her, she ran straight for the pillar. The shadow monster lunged, knocking Marcus aside. Marissa pressed her hands to the stone, looked back at him, and smiled softly. "Thank you for coming for me." A blinding white light erupted, vaporizing the creature and sealing the hollow. Marcus awoke in a field under the morning sun, the earth torn open where the nightmare once stood. He found Marissa, alive but weak. Her light finally faded. They were safe. Finally, free. 2 weeks after the hollow collapsed, Dallas settled back into its usual rhythm. The sirens, the late-night traffic, the neon glow on warm summer nights. People never knew how close everything came to ending, and they never would. Marcus sat beside Marissa on a bench outside White Rock Lake, watching the water move in gentle ripples. She looked healthier now, color back in her cheeks, her laughter returning piece by piece. But sometimes her eyes flickered, just for a second, like a tiny ember still smoldering. She pretended not to notice. He pretended not to worry. "It feels different," she murmured, her hand skimming the lake's surface. "Like real water again." He smiled. "No glowing hands grabbing your ankles this time." She nudged him, but then her hand froze. I thought I heard something." He listened. Only wind, birds, distant city noise. "What did you hear?" Her voice trembled. "A whisper." She pulled her hand back. A single drop remained on her palm, glowing faintly for just one heartbeat. Then it faded. She closed her hand into a fist. "It's nothing," she whispered. "It's gone." But as they walked away behind them, the water rippled once. Just once. Like something far below had shifted in its sleep.